Okay, well, so good to see you. Glad you could get. We got more to. It's lots going on since last we did the program and so forth. But in the audience, welcome very, very much to Conversations. I want to introduce my dear friend Colia Clark, who is a great contributor to improving the human condition on many, many fronts. An absolute pioneer, very, very early civil rights activist and so forth, and also just keeping her eye on the world situation in a very responsible way. And we're both very interested in the situation in North Africa, particularly in the country of Libya. And also, she was a candidate for the United States Senate from the state of New York on the Green Party in the recent election, did very well as a candidate, and she came into the association with Cynthia McKinney, who had been the presidential nominee for the Green Party. Yes. And Cynthia has been, we're going to try and put in some footage from Cynthia in the country of Libya, and we're doing a two-part series now. This is the first hour of a two-hour presentation. We'll go over two time periods, but we're doing that. And Colia Clark, Colia, welcome so very, very much to Conversation.
Always
here
great.
On the 26th of May of the year 2011. You're looking good, honey. I know you've had a little health and all that.
Thank you.
But anyway, so lay it out. We're going to be talking about Libya. We're going to show some footage with Cynthia McKinney, who you're associated with. But let's go really quick over your background. You were early on, as a young girl, yes. You were involved on the civil rights thing with the leaders of that civil rights movement.
Yeah, well, I started out
with
Medgar W, who was NAACP's field secretary for the state of Mississippi. I was his special assistant for the state of Mississippi.
Okay.
Of course, Medgar was assassinated. Assassination still clearly not resolved, even though they claim to have resolved it.
Yeah.
From Medgar W and NAACP, I got involved with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
With Stokely?
Stokely Carmichael at
he
that
was my
time,
dear
but
friend.
Kwame Ture.
Kwame Ture came
but
to
with Jim Foreman, Robert Moses, who was out of New York, probably the finest of the field organizers and directors. In fact, the state of Mississippi speaks to his organization in that it has more elected officials than any state in the union. Not that it's any better off than it used to be.
They're doing that thing on public television about the Freedom Riders.
Freedom Riders. My first husband is always standing there, Bernard Lafayette. And John Lewis, who was the best man at my wedding, and
really?
You're
a pioneer in that.
Part of the crew,
early.
As they say, yes.
Yeah, right, in the gang and everything like that, and you've done that, and you've been involved, and then you've always had your eye interested on justice for the great number of people, civil rights, a major issue.
Civil rights, and always have been interested, Harold, and
justice.
I was born as a black child, so being a black child raised in Mississippi.
Right, that's
at a time when the only thing that I had going for me was a little red book with a brown monkey on it called Winky.
Right.
My introduction to education.
Yeah.
Mississippi had very few ideas and very little education.
Right.
And what little we got, we fought hard for.
Right.
But I was black, and I did grow up in an environment where Africa was always there, because it was the one thing that we could turn to in despair. The one thing that we could always say that there was a home somewhere.
Right.
Mississippi wasn't home.
Yeah.
America wasn't home.
Right. Okay.
And there was no reason for us to call it home, because the laws were absolutely against us.
Oh, absolutely.
The economic system against us. I mean, everything was against us.
Right.
So Africa was always there. So I've always loved Africa and always wanted to be involved with what was happening in Africa. So Pan-Africanism was in the picture. Yes, of course, because,
Kwame Ture and Kwame.
Well, we talk about
Kwame Nkrumah. Ghana was a Pan-Africanist, and I think Sako Toure, who Stokely took the name Sako Toure to celebrate those two Pan-Africans.
Two great men, yes.
Then he had the Pan-African Revolutionary Party. He was a Pan-Africanist.
All African People's Revolutionary Party. I was speaking with Bob Brown, who's...
Bob Brown, I love Bob.
Yeah, Bob is still... I talked with Bob by email twice last week.
No kidding.
They wanted me to come down to Washington. I had pneumonia.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So they had the African Liberation Day every year, annual, in Washington last weekend.
Bob Brown was with him when he passed in Guinea. Bob Brown, give him my best regard.
I will give Bob your love. I mean, really, Bob is a really wonderful man.
I think we did a program with him. He was in prison, I think, with Viren Bellicourt. here in New York and everything.
Yes.
But give him my love and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, I've come through that long journey from Alabama, where my husband and I were the founders of the Black Belt Alabama Voter Education Project for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which will be the place where King will put his whole apparatus down on top of in '65 on top of a SNCC project. Yeah. So I came that route, but I'm from the peace movement.
Yeah,
I'm from Poor Women Against the Vietnam War.
Right.
I coordinated that piece. And so peace and civil rights and human rights and women and girls and women and girls, founder of Mothers on the Move. Good. I just think that there's so much in the world to be done. Right. And then there's the environment. I grew up in an environmental family with a mother who was both for African and indigenous, and a father who was quite involved with the environment. And so we grew up children who, if you broke one little limb off a tree, that made you graft and plant 5 more. You couldn't treat but you had to treat Mother Nature with caution, even the snakes.
The people what get most strung out on that, particularly the Jains in India, they don't even want to walk on the ground because they might do damage to a bacteria or something. Tread lightly on the earth and so forth. And in general, in terms of the human condition, concern for the least advantaged people of the world rather than, as they say, cottoning on or sucking up in the vernacular to those who are already rich and powerful and walking with big league boots, which has been the state of the World Organization up until the present time. So there's not nearly enough attention to the least advantaged people. Yes. And you've got a very strong feeling for the people of Africa take heart from
Well, not just Africa, for Africans everywhere and for other people everywhere, because I have an East Indian background in there somewhere. Obviously, I have a European background because we went through the rape of slavery. But I think what's important, Harold, is I grew up in a time when the focus was not economics. So we were poor, but we didn't know anything about poor and poverty. So I grew up in a world where my understanding of life it wasn't about money. In fact, I remember a woman once saying to my mother, I don't know why she thought that when she died they were going to hook a U-Haul up behind that truck. That hearse, But the focus wasn't economics. The focus was on humanity. So we had a moral understanding. And a morally righteous and just understanding of what the world was about. Our religion wasn't about a God who helped you to get things. God didn't help you to get things. And so it was a whole different understanding. And what has happened, I think, with the course of time is that I have come to understand that the capitalism has corrupted us all to a point where we no longer understand it wasn't about the pieces of gold and silver. It wasn't about the dresses and the houses and the cars. That is not life. Life is how we relate to one another, how we work together, how we work together to secure and build the planet.
Okay, very good. But it is true that the economics, for good or ill, it would behoove, if we're interested in improving things in a general kind of way, and I'm thinking now in the back of my mind about Cynthia, who's I'm not sure if she's still there, in Libya, and the world's looking at Libya now. Economics informs so mightily the political process itself. So if we're trying to get conditions that are going to be maybe understanding economics. I once did a program with Isaac Asimov, the great polymath. Only one, he wrote on every subject under the world, 600 books. He wrote on everything, astrophysics, physics, everything. And there was only one thing he could not fathom. It was economic theory. He could not understand or make any sense out of it. He just gave up on it, being able to be understood, because it's got all kinds of trickery and things. But to understand that is an important issue. Because it may be that there are transformations that, in terms of the inappropriateness of economic theory, which informs the political process, which in turn informs the social order, is very important, I think.
Oh, yes, but, economics is not money.
No.
You see, but economics is a source of life.
That's right.
That is an understanding. But my concept of that economics comes out of a people base.
I understand.
Out of a communal base where everybody's working together to share what little resources we had in the world in which I grew up as a black person, because we were denied access to land and other resources. So what we got, we fought hard for, but we didn't fight for it to sit over in the corner and have my little piece. And our growth grow my peace using you and to your disadvantage.
Yeah, right. All of that. Yeah.
It was all about how to build community.
Yeah.
I can remember once there was a young man who was a very, very mathematical genius, actually, in junior high school and high school. And he went to the alternate high school from the high school. I was in one high school, he was another. But the whole community in town was trying to figure out how to get the money to make sure that this child got the best education possible. That was true for any child who showed a talent, whether it was a sport talent, a drama talent. When I got ready to go to college, you know, the barbers and beauticians of Mississippi came together to make sure that they helped to sponsor me and to make sure I was in college. And because if you show talent, but only if you show talent now. If you just was just willy-nilly, the black community was not going to support you. The black community was about, at that time, how do we build a united front together with our best foot forward, our best talent in all areas of life. So when Dr. King said, if you can't be a bush, be a tree.
Okay, good.
All right?
Yeah, right.
So it was this kind of an understanding. We've gotten away from that. It wasn't as tied to religion. People put religion, it was more tied to morality and ethical understandings.
Ethics are...
Yes. The thing that I like about Libya and the Jamahiriya, it grows out of that kind of a thinking, that old communal systems in Africa, combined with the modernism of Marxism, well, he can talk about socialism and moving from that to the next stage.
Yeah, right.
You know?
That's all things that are going on in that country and everything. That's all really interesting and everything. You got that. And now what's happened is we've got this situation in Libya that's very disquieting to me. And so we're going to be talking about that on this program, and the one that we're going to do 2 hours now about it. And then we're also going to be taking a look at that. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and bring up, maybe we could talk a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about in your own lifespan.
Yes.
You became involved with the Green Party.
Oh, yes.
And you met Cynthia McKinney, who's been a beacon for many people in terms of understanding justice. And she stood up for the least among us in a very vociferous, often way, but also a very balanced and intellectually integral way for movements that would help the least among us. And she's been in Libya. We're going to try and show some videotape of YouTube footage of her. But how did you become associated with her? And you are associated with the Green Party, which is an alternative political movement in this country, which may, given the difficulties that are being confronted by the people who stand up for the traditional system here, might be a real challenge to it at a systems level that might be timely in terms of getting universal justice out to a lot of the least among us, including some of those who are trying to reify or give foundation to the established system, which only, as we can see in economic terms, favors the super wealthy.
Yes. Hal, you know, there's always, when you say Cynthia, there's a gospel song that says, "Just one star to light up my way." Cynthia is kind of that star, I think, that's emerging in America. Oftentimes, I wish she would even run for president. She would just be that great leader, that voice.
She did win. She ran for president.
Yes, I know.
As the Green Party.
She ran, I know.
Yeah, and she was 12 years
I was sponsoring her right here in New York.
Yeah, you were running. Yeah, right. That was a great ticket.
That wasn't a ticket. I was her sponsor. I was the person who really got into which had already been in New York, but came here to coordinate activities for New York. But the thing about Cynthia is that, you know, I think that we need a new voice, a new Messiah. And Cynthia, in many ways, is that Messiah. They're stepping on the stage following Martin King, beginning around the country, people are beginning to respond. Now, I met Cynthia in 2007 in New Orleans, Louisiana.
She was there for before that.
Oh, well, long before that. Oh, many months. Oh, my God.
Right.
I went through the trials and tribulations, as we all did with Cynthia, with the 9/11 piece, with the madness heaped upon her by the United States Congress, really an attempt to just destroy not just the Congresswoman.
Niagaras of money came in to defeat her after
That's
being
right.
12 years in
and
the
a coming
Congress,
together, what I'm going to call I don't mean to be mean to the Republican and Democratic Party, but I think we need to. I think
I got reason to be
the imagery that I see is a one-bodied, two-headed snake.
Yeah, one-bodied,
very venomous snake. And Cynthia is an example of how they come together. So that the Democrats heap up with the Republicans to make sure that Cynthia McKinney does not return to the Congress.
And she represents something new. And Libya May, that's one of the things we want to talk about. Libya May represents something new because those two heads of that snake are representing an order whose basic premises, institutions, notions of thought about social organization, economics, and so forth, which have been in the saddle since about 1776, 230 years or so, in terms of the way the world's organized itself, the broader world. And that whole system may be based upon a situation that is in need of qualitative transformation due to the evolutionary process itself.
Yes.
As there was a need for something beyond feudalism when we did our system here in the United States and made the world, and Libya might be, it's a stretch, hard to understand. We are so superpower. We're more powerful than Rome at the height of its peak with power and so forth. And we assume that we are the source of legitimate authority in the world and so forth. I saw Mr. Obama talking to houses of parliament, how righteous it is that we're bombing the people in Libya. Killing children and so forth, covering that up and saying all kinds of things. And we're being propagandized by that along the lines, and we're dropping predator bombs down a chimney of his house and so forth. And it's a thing that makes my blood run cold because he may very well be ahead of history's curve in terms of the way that society began to organize itself after 1969 when they made that revolution in that then at that time very poor country. Huge progress has been made, and the idea of how they organized that society might be ahead of history's curve the way the United States was ahead of feudalism in 1776, and we ought to pay homage to him rather than bomb his kids.
Oh, I think the man needs to be truly not only paid homage to, but studied. His work needs to be studied. The Green Book needs to be studied. Well, first of all, what is Libya? Libya is, we say Libya, a name assigned there by Rome, because we're talking about an old place here. We've talked about this before.
All of North Africa was called
Libya,
in Greek and Roman times.
That's right. So it's a long ways back. What we need to know, though, is that when we began to talk about it, we need to know the name of the place. The place is Libya, Socialist Jamahiriya, Libya.
Yeah.
So it's not just Libya.
Right.
Based on that, the Jamahiriya, which you were so great at explaining and talking about, and which I certainly, I guess I totally agree that we need to look at that economic piece.
Give it a hearing that he may be right. And it may be the reason that they're attacking him is his imperialism, steal the oil, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well,
that kind of thing, or the things that we've stumbled into Iraq and other. It's imperialism. It may be just that normal thing in geostrategic thinking. It may be somebody has realized that he may be, and this is what's hard. It's a little difficult because we're so powerful. We got weapons that can destroy the whole world. I mean, you got to take account of that in realpolitik.
But not an ounce of love, Harold.
Well, okay, right. But the point being is, he may be a threat at an ideological level.
I think
we used to think Marx was a threat.
Yes, of course he was a threat.
Before the Soviet Union. China's going to become a state capitalist, it seems to me. They've just fallen in with our kind of thing. Super rich people. You got 1 billion people on less than $2 a day in that country.
Yes.
The least advantaged people. No system is able, and these were in modern terms, to serve the masses of the people in an equitable or just kind of way.
Well, I think Jamahiriya can do that.
Possibly to get hearing.
I think it can do that. I think it can do that. If we look at what the poverty of Libya under King Idris,
poorest people in the world.
Poorest people in the world. Then coming into power of this young group of upstarts with Gaddafi at the head.
Yeah.
And a Colonel Gaddafi, and he's still Colonel Gaddafi. But to begin to talk about an economic system that will allow the least advantaged to participate in the economic process in terms of owning the resource, sharing the resource, building whatever production there is, being a total part of that. So we begin to talk about, well, the whole thing of partnership and not workers. So moving from the worker into the ownership category, but not in an exploitive way.
Right, exactly. Well, that could take off. Henry George. He said that all the resources should be collectively owned. They could be owned. Some of the Marxists would think it'd be collectively owned if you do away with the private sector, private property. But it has not been eliminated. But there in Libya, they have it set up where if you do a business, the ownership of the assets have to be owned by the people who make up the entity, or you could have it to be the assets of the country could be owned by the people as a way of distributing income rather than only labor that people get income from, because it's being displaced by technological development. We have to have an alternative way of getting money to people in a time when there's going to be displacement of labor in the productive process, and the productive process is increasingly technological instruments, all owned by a tiny plutocratic class, and it's becoming absurd how wealthy they are becoming now. I mean, it's just all the money is going there, and the traditional way of doing it. In Libya, everybody has to own a piece of private property ownership of the productive capacity and technology and so forth, and that's a way to distribute what they call demand in terms of supply and demand, what we can produce. They got a thing where we can produce everything, but if people don't have the ability to buy, we just had subprime mortgage that people should have homes. They didn't have the ability to have the money to buy what the system was able to produce. And that's a thing that we're stumbling all over as we see our banks become overwhelmingly, just absolutely absurdly wealthy now. And people are being put out of their homes in this system. Now, he's doing it. One of the problems is, that's one of the major issues, how are we going to form capital? How we're going to distribute ownership of capital, which is increasingly responsible for production, capital instruments or technology or resources in general, as a way of distributing income. And that's a major problem confronting humanity now. And we don't have a solution to it. I mean, all they're going to try and do is create jobs. And it's not going to work in a thing where you're getting... Mr. Keynes warned about that in 1930 in the Letter to Grant. Anyway, that's the issue. In Libya, they have set up a system in keeping with that future, coming out of the situation they were in, that's really of interest to the world. Not to mention, they set up meeting halls for everybody to move toward a participatory political process rather than representative. And we all go over there. Where are all your bought congressmen? Where are all your lobbyists from Pentagon? All of these kind of things. You can't have a democracy unless you've got lobbyists with billions of dollars that can buy the politicians and all this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
Just like they came over here in 1776. Where are the assize courts? Where are the powdered wigs? Where are the things they were used to in their order? We are saying the same thing to them, but he may be ahead of it, of the curve, both politically and economically. And we mentioned Cynthia and your contact with her. She's been there. Yeah. And we have a tape, if we can figure it. Just
I think we should run the tape. But let me just say, Cynthia, yes. Libya, yes. North Africa. But when Cynthia was in Congress, she had committees set up to look at the issues of South and Central America. This was a part of the problem with her, because she had a habit of listening to people.
Yes, right.
The least among us. The masses, as we say. The masses, as we say.
Rather than she had, kowtowing
for Asia, she had a committee set up. So Cynthia is familiar with what's happening in Iran and what's happening in Afghanistan and places, because she worked, when she made sure she set up committees to work with those issues. And, of course, for Africa. So, and Europe. So, you know, this is a woman who had the inner wisdom to understand that as a congressperson, you should not just be limited to Georgia.
Or to the wealthy.
That's right, to Georgia. Got a lot of peaches, but that's nice.
But you've got nothing but lobbyists.
That's right.
They're airing a program now. Okay.
Yes.
They didn't let us set it up, but maybe...
سينثيا مكيني مرشحة حزب الخضر للرئاسة الأمريكية عام 2008 وعضوة سابقة في الكونغرس الأمريكي عن الحزب الديمقراطي. فلتتفضل.
Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of myself and the 12 other members of my delegation, I want to thank the Society of Supporters of the Green Book for inviting us to participate in this conference. Mr. Secretary General, you have provided us an opportunity to listen, share, and learn, and we thank you for that. I would like to introduce myself and my delegation to you because we see the United States from a different point of view. Because of who we are and what we do, our America is not portrayed in the news, nor can you see it in our Hollywood productions. My name is Cynthia McKinney, and I am from the United States. I served in the United States Congress for 12 years. While there, I filed articles of impeachment against George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Condoleezza Rice. I voted against every Pentagon appropriation, considering it immoral to spend so much money on war when millions of our children go to bed hungry every night. I wrote legislation to ban the importation of coltan from the Democratic Republic of Congo into the United States because of the horrific human rights abuses committed during its mining. I was the first member of Congress to ask the Bush administration of the September 11, 2001 attack on the United States, what did it know and when did it know it? And in 2001, I led the Congressional Black Caucus Task Force at the World Conference Against Racism, defying President Bush's boycott. Currently, I'm working with the Brussels Tribunal that just filed a lawsuit in Spain against all the U.S. presidents responsible for war crimes in Iraq. I am on my way from here to participate in the Malaysia Peace Organization's effort to criminalize war and hold leaders accountable for their wars. In December 2007, I tried to take humanitarian supplies to the people of Gaza after the outbreak of Operation Cast Lead. And the Israeli military rammed and destroyed our boat. In June of this year, I tried to take crayons to the children of Gaza, and the Israelis hijacked our boat, kidnapped us, took us to Israel, where I spent 7 days in an Israeli prison because I wanted the people of Gaza to live as I have been given life. It was all I could do. How can anyone watch bombing and killing and not be moved to try and stop it? I did with my body what I did with a congressional office. I left Washington not because I chose to, but because the Israel lobby inside the United States was able to utilize all of its leverage inside both the Democratic and Republican parties and target me. They targeted me because I dared to believe that all human beings, including Palestinians, have human rights. In 2007, at a peace rally in front of the Pentagon, I declared my independence from a national leadership that had caused my country to become complicit in war crimes, torture, crimes against humanity, and crimes against the peace. I then joined the Green Party and in 2008 ran for President of the United States. I traveled the length and breadth of my country and ran around the world carrying the message of truth, justice, peace, and dignity. The people with me in this delegation are the people I came to know as I traveled this tremendous journey. They are talented, committed, smart, and make sacrifices every day of their lives so that they can have a better government inside our country and so that our country can become a better partner for our world. The members of this delegation long ago stepped outside the box of conformity to better match their values with their politics, because they believe not just in talk, but also in action. Today, the United States economy teeters at the precipice. The people know that they voted for change, but the desired change is yet to come. When the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency and the ramifications are felt across our country, inside tens of millions of U.S. homes, even more people will begin to ask much harder questions of our leaders. Even now they wonder, why does our country fight endless wars when the people want peace? Why are the wealthy bankers who crashed our economy being gifted with trillions of our tax dollars when we need that money? Why must students take on sometimes as much as $100,000 of debt just to get a college education? Why are the profits of pharmaceutical companies more important to the politicians we elect than the quality of our health? So many questions and so few answers if we stay inside the box of current acceptable political thought. But the moment we open our eyes and learn the facts and examine our reality, it is clear that the people through the mass media are being led to believe that war is for peace, ignorance is strength, slavery is freedom, and lies are the truth. So what are we to do about it? Because of this conference and the friendships we will make and the knowledge we will gain, at this very critical moment, we may now inject a new thread into an old, worn-out conversation. The members of my delegation are prepared to act locally, but please understand that our vision is global. We came together and produced this declaration that I read to you now.
Come back to us, and we're learning how to put these up. Okay, come back to us, and what they're going to do, she's going to read the declaration, and then we want to try and get another piece in that did with Cynthia from Tripoli just days ago with Alex Jones, who's hardcore activist, everybody will know, while the bombs were falling on the grandchildren of Gaddafi in an outright attack, which can only be seen as a war crime with predators trying to kill the man, even though they're trying to say something else. But we can talk just a little bit here, and then we want to get all this footage into this hour. So we'll run. They're going to run the thing. They're just rendering it so that they can air it now. The follow up to that, which she did. And so what we're talking now. So just let us know when that's ready to go, and we'll run that second piece. And then we want to run another piece with Cynthia McKinney. We want to be in touch. You're in touch with her on a regular basis. Yes, I am. So just let us know when we're ready to go with that second piece. And so what do you think? What do you think? We just killed his son and grandchildren a couple of weeks ago with predators. We're going to take helicopters now. There's CIA now involved.
So Obama's gift to the royal couple.
Yeah, and he's going over there about how it's so. Oh, here we go.
We are the American delegation, now honored, now housed comfortably in Libya, looking past the beauty of the Mediterranean to a world in turmoil, a world in need of true democracy.
Because they didn't get it. They had to get it. Okay, well, you come back. Maybe, why don't we talk some about this, and maybe we can't do that and get that little piece there. Too bad. Cynthia's really to be applauded.
At this historic moment, it is appropriate to discuss anew forms of self-determination. It is fitting that...
Well, maybe...
Too much buffering.
Okay, why don't we just come back to us, Josh, now? And then I would suggest...
This discussion is taking place in the land of democracy's inception, Africa. Colonel...
Josh, you can talk to me now. Why don't you come back to us? We'll talk for a little while, and you could buffer while we're talking the one with Alex Jones and make sure that that's ready to go clearly rather than trying to do this, and then we can talk some. What do you think? Let's talk a little bit while you do that, and then we'll try to run that before the end of the hour. What do you make of it? Yeah, we got a thing where she's talking. She was there as it was being bombed with the grandchildren being killed. They're outright talking about killing the man, and they're outright doing that. And she's making appeal in this. Sorry it didn't get buffered. For us listening to that country with its as a leadership element, much like the French would have supported George Washington when they were making a challenge to the outdated Angevin regime. That's the point I'm trying to get at here, and I'm wondering, we'll let them buffer that second program, or the second insert from her while she was there. But what is your thought about it? What is your thought? He gave a talk to Buckingham Palace yesterday about how it's good that we're going over there killing people, saying we're protecting them. Those people got CIA support. They've got Al-Qaeda support, the people over there. They weren't coming like people marching. They shouldn't say we're killing civilians. They were not coming as civilians. They were coming with weapons attacking military places. It was a wartime stance, not people, freedom riders in Mississippi or people marching in Times Square or something that he was reacting to. It was a thing being brought by people who were being supported by CIA efforts that have been going on for a long time. What is your thought about it? Well, we'll wait for them to buffer that other
Well, I think what we have to really clearly understand is that Obama, that's what we in the South call one-upsmanship. I got one better than you, one better than you, Bush. I got the Al-Qaeda head, one better than you, Bush. I'm not just going to bomb and kill one child. I'll kill 4. I'll kill his son, and I'll kill the babies.
Yeah, right, yeah. Like Pharaoh.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. This is a gift to the royal couple. They're getting married, so Obama's gift is the killing of these 3 children. But I think more than that, children all over Libya are playing hide and seek with the bombs, especially in heavily populated Tripoli.
Okay, we think we have it.
Okay.
We think we have it, so we'll put it on, okay?
Okay, go ahead. Put
Are
on
you ready, Fred?
Yes, go ahead. Put it on now. We're just here, all one team here. Put it on and we'll see how it goes. Okay. Okay, this is going on that long thing now. And make it full screen. Oh, this is going to be a long one.
Joining us from
Tripoli,
Libya, under months and months of bombardment, British attack helicopters now being dispatched, U.S. and British forces advising admitted Taliban and Al-Qaeda in the fight against Muammar Gaddafi. The attempted assassinations are ongoing, and they're not even calling them assassinations, even though they're admitted. The Russians are now calling for an immediate ceasefire in Libya, saying this is an attack, a humanitarian disaster. They now admit the rest of the Arab Springs are being funded by the CIA. That's now admitted.
So we are pleased to introduce solidarity that shatters
former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney has been demonized because she fought courage to speak up against DynCorp and Halliburton child kidnapping rings.
Okay, what happened? You seem to get them both going at the same time. We had a little problem. I was just about to come in to find out, are we going to run the thing with Alex Jones, done recently within the last couple of weeks, or what are we going to run? And could you tell me where do we stand, or should we talk some about Buckingham Palace and his talk about how it's important for us to go over and kill babies in Libya to protect something other than just imperialistic that? Or is there anything to the possibility they want to attack him because at a level of idea, it is a threat. Our system is all caught up in itself with inherent contradictions that are not going to be solved. And so, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. and then you guys in the booth.
It's a level of ideas
to run that thing with Alex Jones and Cynthia from a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we're talking about the level here. On one level, you got the idea, a new economic system. Something,
yes, very
a whole new, the whole Jamahariya.
It's a whole new way in structuring an economy nationally that they had it set up there that we probably have to follow ourselves or will have to follow unless we're going to end up with 5 or 6 people owning everything.
Right.
The way things are trending now.
No question. So you see a nation where he has been able to make it work to run the basic economy to a point where people are making more than $1,000 a month, so it works out to about $1,300 a year. So you see that in a place where the average income of the average African is about $2 or $3 a day. If you get $300 or $400 a year, you're doing lucky. That's a good year.
All of the indexes from having been practically total illiteracy is total literacy now.
That's correct.
All of the indicators have indicated top of the mark for Libya in a mere 20, 30 years.
That's right.
Putting together, he got a lot of money from oil and he spread it around.
That's right. The working economy, housing, and building more housing, trying to bring people in from the rough areas of the desert into Tripoli and the urban centers, building housing for people, bringing them in, housing them. But we also see a place for women. Women, and for me, that's always a measurement of any place I go. It is what is the quality of life for women and children.
You've been to Fatah University. It looks like Southern California University. It's there. The women have as high literacy as the men, nearly so.
Yes.
A little bit different. But
they only had 30 or 40 years to do that in.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
in a mere 30 years.
That's right. So we have to remember, that's right.
To the highest standard in all of Africa.
And what women have.
Nelson Mandela said there was no person in the whole world outside of South Africa that did more to break the back of apartheid for the least advantage in South Africa than Muammar Gaddafi. Loved the man.
That's right. That's correct. That's correct.
That's good credentials.
It's good credentials, but it's
but he's got the audacity to be concerned with the poor people rather than the rich, powerful people who built in 12-star hotels and call themselves legitimate.
So when you walk through the streets of Libya, you see the women.
Okay, yeah.
The women, even if they choose to wrap their heads,
some might.
Many do. But the thing is that you see them free, independent. Women are able to participate in the economy, participate in the political system, the education system, the whole development of the Jamahariya, and women are the bodyguards for Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah.
So, you see women free, but you see women and children free and independent. And I think that's a measurement. But here's a place where women don't have to worry about health care. I don't have to worry about my breast cancer, whether or not I can get, if I got cervical cancer, whether or not I'm going to get treatment for it. In Libya, you got treatment because everybody's got free health care.
Yeah, and education.
Free education, free health care. I mean, these are things that the man worked on, the things that make the human things.
They own their own home.
Yes.
They own their own automobile.
Yes.
They have free education. They have free health care. At the top of the mark, all the human index indicators in a mere 20 years have gone to the top of the mark.
That's correct.
Certainly the highest in all of Africa.
Yeah, the highest in Africa.
And they've also invested a lot of their sovereign funds in trying to get systems going to help the people of Africa.
All of Africa.
As though all the West cares about is how can they exploit resources for their own advantage. And they have no way of paying any attention to the least advantage generally. He does, and that can't be given. That can't be given any credence. You can enter only a system that's going to serve the interests of the rich, already rich and powerful.
And that's a part of the reason. I'm saying, why must Gaddafi be destroyed? Why must Libya be destroyed? Because we're not just talking about Gaddafi here.
No.
Because really, you could have hired assassins and had them to sneak around to kill Gaddafi.
Well,
it's about destroying what has been built.
Your mic isn't on.
I've got it here. I'm holding it. But are you able to get what happened?
No, it keeps buffering.
Okay, you can't do anything.
It buffers.
You can't. Okay, I'll just put this back on. But can you try to get it so that it's all done and steady like you did with the first one? Okay, yeah. And one of the things that called to my mind, I was just reading up on the War of 1812. We had won a revolutionary war against the British, the monarchy. And in 1812, there was still, everything as you know, we did, and they came here. And remember, in 1814, the War of 1812, fighting the British, we had won the war. Cornwallis. 60% of the people of the South were in support of Cornwallis against George Washington and the revolutionaries. I don't understand that dynamic. You could call it Benghazi, you could call it hanging on to the power elite or trying to get something or all those things. But they did. They won in 1812, they came over here and they burned the White House and they were still attacking us.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's try it one more time.
Okay, 80, and then, so 40 years after we go and bomb Gaddafi and kill it and bomb Libya because they were in advance of where we
you got to remove that, the image. You got to remove it.
Okay, they say from the booth, maybe we've got another tape that we can go with Cynthia because we really want the world to know about
against the Patriot Act. She has a lot of courage, and she's a member of the Green Party. She's been awarded the Peace Through Conscience Award from the Munich American Peace Committee. And yesterday she appeared on state-run Libyan TV, and that's caused quite a hubbub here domestically because she has the courage to go to that. We were talking to her yesterday on the phone with bombs going off in the background. Congresswoman, we appreciate you joining us.
Alex, it's been too long. I have wanted to come on your show for so long, but it's quite, you know, whenever we get together, it's wonderful. So thank you so much for having me on. And, you know, it's dark here now, and after the meeting of President and Cameron, we expect that there will be intense bombing tonight. We don't know that, but we expect that that's what is in store for us. More humanitarian intervention from NATO.
And Obama told Cameron, no let-up on Gaddafi. Now, have you talked to Gaddafi? What have you witnessed? What are you seeing? We're seeing the images of civilian dead, burning buildings, and our media tells us 1984 style, this is not an assault, this is not an attack, this is humanitarian. They're sinking, 8 ships last week in the harbor, bombs going off everywhere, more bombs yesterday. What are you witnessing?
They're lying. The American people are being lied to, not only by the media, by their leaders. And this is becoming a humanitarian disaster. For example, I have an Italian woman here who did everything she could to purchase medicines because they want to purchase medicines. And the government of Italy put a stop on the purchase by the Libyans of medicine for their people.
And that's a violation of the Geneva Convention. That is a serious war crime.
That's right. And then we have the situation with fuel for civilian use. They have effectively blockaded the harbor so that deliveries of benzene to fuel the cars is not permitted. And this is affecting the civilian population. So you will see what looks like a traffic jam. And actually, it's cars lined up, hundreds of cars lined up at the service station.
So they have Libya under siege. Tell us what it's like on the ground. Tell us what you're witnessing. Tell us what you said on Libyan television.
Well, basically, now here's the interesting thing, because these people, the Libyans, are undeterred. They seem to be unafraid. I was with a group of women. I wrote in the piece that I did, A Feast of Blood, about a woman whose mother is in Benghazi. and she can't. It's sort of like the situation with Hurricane Katrina. She can't get back to Benghazi because, Benghazi is the stronghold of the rebels. Now, the interesting thing, what I've been told today, I haven't checked it out yet, but that there is sort of active Israeli intervention in Benghazi, and that the Israelis are on the ground under contract, probably being paid to organize the NATO alliance that consists of Libyans, but it's my understanding that these so-called rebels are not just Libyans. They are people from all over the region. These are not even mainly Libyans. These are Egyptians and Algerians and...
It's the CIA secret Al-Qaeda brigades from the 1980s. That's now been admitted.
Yes.
And there's U.S. and British commandos have been there since before it started. That's now confirmed. This is absolutely incredible. Why did you decide to go to Libya, former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney?
Well, I guess, I'm accustomed to going into conflict zones, and I just could not accept that this was being done in my name. And, there comes a point when you're fed up, you're tired, and you want to do as much as you can possibly do. And, of course, I come from the Catholic tradition that instructs us that we have an obligation, we have a responsibility to do as much as we are gifted to do. And so being here was my way of making a contribution. And sure enough, the fact that I was here when the most intense bombardment of Tripoli, this is Tripoli. I mean, can you imagine? I'm not talking about, out in the farmland where you're just despoiling the agricultural land. I'm talking about Tripoli, a metropolitan area of 2 million people, and they're being hit with bombs. I mean, it is absolutely incredible.
And it's called humanitarian.
What that has to do with any kind of humanitarian intervention is beyond me. This is what we know the United States to be very good at, and particularly on the African continent. We've seen it over and over and over again. Individuals of wealth and resource who are able to pull the levers on U.S. military and diplomatic policy are able to arm a small group of people, give them the financial wherewithal to wreak havoc and terror on a population, and then all of a sudden, presto, abracadabra, you've got what is called in the media a civil war. Well, it's not a civil war. It's a group of people who've decided that they want something that particular area has. For example, in Sierra Leone, it was diamonds. And when the British sand line mercenaries went into the home of Foday Sanko, what did they find there? A letter from Maurice Templesman proposing to do business. So this is the kind of thing that motivates U.S. policy. And I am certain that at the end of an investigation, were we to have one, we would find that there are certain individuals involved in this, and they are able to dictate to the president, to Cameron, to Sarkozy, to all of the NATO allies. They are able to dictate them going to war.
Well, we know what it's about. The Al-Qaeda rebels have already set up their own bank. They've already set up their own oil company. And it's about handing over the trillions in oil, also the water. Say what you want about Muammar Gaddafi. He's built up an infrastructure. He's actually delivered to the people the government spoils, and it's become a major hub for all of Africa, and he's been developing Africa and moving towards an African currency and a loan program. He's got hundreds of billions in gold and other resources. And you can say what you want about Gaddafi, but bottom line, this is a takeover. You know, how can the neocon media call you a traitor for being over there reporting the truth when it's admitted that what Gaddafi said 3 months ago is true, that the main force, this is now in the Wall Street Journal and LA Times, that is running all this is Al-Qaeda. And in fact, the Al-Qaeda commander under CIA payroll admits that he killed U.S. soldiers.
It goes on in that, and she's there on the spot, and we're just coming
remarkable woman, yes.
Yeah, she's marvelous and everything. And again, to get back to it, it looks an awful lot like imperialism. They claimed that he was going to kill everybody and so forth. It sounded a little bit. Did you ever hear the Yankees say they're going to murder the Brooklyn Dodgers when they go into a football match or something like that? We're going to win, that kind of thing in terms of that. And and those people again were not just peaceful marchers. It was from the get-go, guns. They had guns,
yes.
And they attacked military targets
yes.
with guns and machine guns and so forth. And it's backed by the CIA.
And with the backup of an Egyptian brigade, reportedly also we hear now that the Israelis also have that. But obviously America has been on the ground from the start. And we're talking about Al-Qaeda. Mm-hmm. We can't find them in. We can't find them in Afghanistan because they're in Libya.
Well, Alex Jones may be ahead of me on that. I don't quite understand.
I don't understand.
But I'm going to run it down. I'm not sure of that.
Well, Colonel Gaddafi said from the start that Al-Qaeda was a group. Yeah, from the start. Yeah. Now I don't know either. But one thing about it we can be very clear of is that America is taking the lead part here.
Yeah. Well,
and we know that from the start, France runs out because France has to protect her own interests, and she figures that North Africa and all of what was former French colonies are her territory. Yes.
Algeria, the French, it's colonialism.
Sure it is.
It's just plain old European colonialism.
Sure.
Sarkozy ought to be they ought to get the guillotine out for what they're doing against the people of Africa.
There's no doubt about it.
It should not be accepted by the people of the United States or any of this talk about how we're doing things for humanitarian purposes, it seems to me. And mostly important in terms of what you and I want to do, teach and Cynthia's trying to do, is understand that what they did, progressive people are supposed to be concerned with the least among us. Jesus said that, Moses said that, Buddha said that, Lao Tzu said that. They've all said that. The political leaderships have roundly ignored the concern for the least among us.
Yes.
They can starve. They don't care if they starve. They're in their 12-star hotel. That attitude is what's motivating the system here in the United States. They're in deep trouble because they don't have a way of distributing demand to the people. They're stuck in an outdated paradigm of social organization, political and economic, and he has a model, much like the United States had a model. They were weak compared to the great power, a model relevant to the future. So we're going to air Mr. Gaddafi again tomorrow and hope that people can get in touch with that. And thank you, Colia, for filling in on this program now, and we got that in. And so thanks a lot, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always wonderful to be here. And to be here to talk about Cynthia, you know, we were there with the Katrina Tribunal, and she was one of the judges, one of the conveners for the Katrina Tribunal in 2007.
Right.
And that's where I met her.
A lot of connection there.
Yeah, so it's good to be with her.
We've run out of time, so
yes, that's all right.
Thanks. We'll be coming back next week with more on this talk with Colia Clark. Revolutionary in the best sense of the word, humanitarian and civil rights person, and one who's picked up on the significance of what's going on, the need to protest what's going on in the country of Libya, and thanks for all that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be